We're brought up to believe that the earth is our mother. We gain the strength from the earth. We don't place the same values on it as the white man does, because we live by a totally different code of ethics, I suppose. But to see it destroyed in so many ways, I've been up there in aeroplanes and I've looked down and the amount of land that's been destroyed, that hurts the Aboriginal people very much. It's mostly flood-prone country or erosion country like you've got here. And we've only got these very small pockets left. One of the greatest sources that we have is the Murray River that's behind me at the moment. And during the traditional days, this particular area here was a big campsite. And the evidence is all around us if you know what you're looking for. Well, the best way to describe a midden is it's an actual campsite where people camp for thousands and thousands of years. Well, if you look really close, you'll find a lot of mussel shells, snail shells, fish bones, and once you get into where it's been washed away, you can still see the charcoal right through it. The Murray River was a great food source them days, and it was the most populated area in Australia prior to white man's arrival.
The land is definitely dying. The river's polluted. The regrowth is more or less non-existent. Through farming, the clearing of farmland, I think there's something like 1 million square hectares cleared in the state of Victoria. And this has been taking place for about 50 years. So in such a short span, they've more or less killed northwest Victoria. The idea of the cultural officers is primarily to protect sites. We survey areas such as where we are now, which have a vast number of sites. The area that I cover is something in the vicinity of about 22,000 square kilometres. It's not only protecting and surveying, you've got to repetitively police these sites. The material culture that's been taken away in this region is vast. It's everything from skeletal material to the small stone artefacts. It's more or less like going into your house and taking a video without asking and then not feeling any guilt for it.
The issue of Aboriginal skeletal remains is a very sensitive issue in regards to Aboriginal people. It all started some 10 years ago when Jim Berg, who at that time was the director of the Aboriginal Legal Service, he took Melbourne University to court for the return of a collection of Aboriginal skeletal remains known as the Murray Black Collection. They consisted of something like 800 individual Aboriginal people. That only started the fight, I suppose, the fight between academics and Aboriginal people. We won that battle, but we haven't won the war as yet. We are still trying to get back our people to rebury them from not only institutions within Australia, but also overseas.
Nobody goes to Melbourne General Cemetery and digs up people's remains and studies them so thoroughly and has them all recorded and length of bones, the width, and probably what the racial background of the person was. But with our people's remains, our ancestors, there's remains and portions of people in the Vatican, in the museum in London. I believe there's some material in Moscow, exactly where I'm not sure. And there has recently been some material returned from the museum in Edinburgh, in Scotland.
It's appalling, the mentality in the past of the museum people the way the artefacts are treated, the way the skeletal remains have been treated. Just locked in cabinets, skulls kept in one cabinet, leg bones kept in another cabinet, finger bones kept in another cabinet down the road. I mean, that sort of thing is just, it's heartbreaking to see your people treated like that.
The permission of our elders wasn't sought to have remains taken overseas for collections. And yet now our elders have to ask for those people's remains to be returned here, back to the land in which they belong.
We have put reburials back into this dune that have been taken away by people such as George Murray Black or Blackwood and Simpson in the 60s. Part of our respect to our old people is to revegetate places such as this one we're standing on, fence it off to keep four-wheel drives, motorcycles and other such damaging things off this land. The revegetation that's taken place is native trees, pines, gums, and with that we're getting a lot of Murray darling lily coming back.
We've had to go through and do a lot of restoration work on middens, burials, and even to the point where we've had to take canoe trees out of the ground to save them. When I first done it, I had a soil conservationist come through, and he was fresh out of uni, and he had a ticket to say that his method would work. And his method was to backfill with 40-odd trucks of red loam. And the red loam is down in Lake Alexander now. The Murray River took it first high water. So they turned around and they said to me, well, do it your way. Local boys, local men, most of the local community was involved in the actual work. It was all gut-busting work. That was some 10 years ago now, and she's still holding up. I spend a lot of time in the bush, what's left of it, and first thing you get a feeling that the presence of the old spiritual people are with you. It gives you a sense of feeling that there is still hope for our Mother Earth. The spirits are with us all the time, in everything we do.
When our people die, they're not gone forever, their spirit's still with us. That's why we come into the cemetery, tell them everything what's going on, but things coming better. You know, make their spirit rest in peace. Mother and father, son, uncle. The other graves over there, the Roses, Lionel Rose, father came from here. They left us. They was good people. And when I'm passing by up the bush road and I look across and see the cemetery and a big pine, I feel I have to go in to say good day or do something here. You know, it's like passing a friend's house and you don't like going past, but you come in to say good day, and that's what I do. And it's a spiritual thing to us. We don't forget our people. We feel their spirit's still with us. And we think of all the good things they done for us and the happiness they shared and the sadness they shared. And, you know, when they leave us, we sad too because our people going and we all dying out and leaving less and less, and they're taking all the knowledge with them, never to be sort of returned back into our community today, you know. It's being lost. Most of the elders are gone now. We haven't got many, and that's where we got most of our information from. What information I got is from the old men. I used to work all through the forest here with them, and I don't read. I don't read any books. I got books, stacks of books home, but I just, still till the day I die, I'll just go by what I was told. And what I've been told by the old men is all coming true again, you know. They were the greatest conservationists in the world. But now, even the Murray River, you'd be able to see to the bottom. It was just like rainwater, but no more you'll see the Murray like it used to. Eh? The white man, all he could see is dollar signs in his eyes, and where they could make a dollar, they'll destroy.
We're here at an old campsite on the 90-mile beach. Negotiation took place quite a while back with Department of Conservation and Environment and myself, and regarding this site here. And basically what they've done is put a bulldozer through it, bloody wrecked it. They were supposed to do it under our supervision, and they did it with no supervision, no direction at all, and that's what happens when you don't have Koori involvement in things. They're just not sensitive.
We're not screaming land rights, we're screaming traditional, spiritual stuff. We have to protect these burial sites, these midden sites. This is where our grassroots lies. This is where the future of our kids, for future generations, that'll be there, protected and put away forever.
I always feel a sense of spiritual contact, I guess, coming back to this area. And I mean, in traditional areas, our people would travel through them and ask for passage through those areas. And I mean, I really feel like doing the same thing when I come back to these areas. I really feel like singing out and telling people that I'm home and I want to come through. We built permanent housing here, yet we've so often been stereotyped as nomadic. And these stone houses that are around here certainly tell that we had a permanent structure, permanent building, and these places were occupied. And we're still here. We're still here amongst our traditional areas. We're standing here now.
People in this country are ignorant of Aboriginal history and culture and don't want to learn about it. You know, a lot of them just don't want to know about it. And I think that's sad in a way, because it is the oldest race, one of the oldest race of people on Earth and cultures on Earth. And a lot of people overseas are more involved and more aware of what this country has. I would say this forest here was a supermarket. We didn't want for anything. We didn't have to go anywhere for anything. You know, it was an amazing sort of a state of affairs here that, in relation to food.
Oh, you get kangaroo, emu, possums, ducks, snakes, iguanas if you wanted to eat them too. I haven't had them for a while, but no, there's plenty of Aboriginal food around, plenty. You'd never starve.
And this land provides us with life. You know, old saying, you are what you eat. And we still eat our traditional foods. And when we do that, we intake some of the land. It still belongs to us. We still belong to it.
We can't come out and just get a feed when we want it now, because the white man made that law. He never made it to suit us. He only made it to suit himself. And these laws, as far as I'm concerned, is destroy our culture. Like, they don't give a stuff about our sites or our water rolls. And if we caught probably with kangaroo, emu, we'd be prosecuted. But there's two laws, one for them and one for us. But one strict law should be that we should be able to come and go any time we want in here. Hunt and fish and camp any time. And there's no white man law to stop me. I'll keep going. I've been doing it for over 30 years, and I don't see why I should stop now.
Lake tide is very significant to Gunai people because with the location where it is and the significance of it, as you can see by the environment here, that here, a lot of it is still intact and hasn't been destroyed. And the food that is here within the lake system itself is very important to Gunai people. We bring our children here and bring our young people here to collect that traditional food and to retain that aspects of our culture. There's sites here that we haven't showed no one yet because we want the young people to respect and understand before we show them these sites. And we're just not going to take them in there and show them these sites till we know that time is right to do that. I mean, respect is not given to you as you have to earn respect.
I was born here in the Bark Hut, when about 1922, and in the 20s, and I don't really know my age, but it seems a long time ago, mate, in the old Bark Hut job. I never went to school. I went for about 2 days, and I seen enough of that, and I went back to the bush. I followed all the old people around the bush and along the rivers hunting, and they learned me all about the fish traps and the food to eat. We all depended on them things them days. We had no assistance from government. And the old people what did get the rations, they shared their food with the people who had nothing. They were the good old people them days.
And I always say that we've been here since the creation because we were created for this place. We didn't come from anywhere else, and it's not in our history, not in our oral history to say we come from anywhere else. So that's what I believe, and that's what our young kids believe now too.
Children are standing up for themselves now. They will stand up in school and say, we're not doing Captain Cook. He didn't discover Australia, because where does that leave us? And in the last 2 years, we've had a teacher that said, right, we'll try and do it on another, about navigation and things like that and bring it around like that. But the children have refused to do Captain Cook, and I think that's a really important step. Once they start thinking along those lines, that, that we have got our history and we do not need to be told who we are and what we are.
There's a place there called Butcher's Creek. When they drove our people down from the Nicholson River and Swan Reach down to a place called Chinaman Creek, and on both sides of Chinaman's Creek there's a backwater that comes in off of King Lake. So the early settlers on each side of the banks herded all the people down into this backwater, and they just shot them down in hundreds. This area where we are now is called Lake Tyers. It was an area where they relocated our people when the missionaries wanted to establish an Aboriginal settlement. So this place was selected to be the area to try and Christianise them and to change their lifestyle and make sure that they would become good Christian people. It had a devastating effect upon the families in many ways. A lot of their language and their culture was destroyed during that period of time.
We had to go to church, we had to become Christians, and everything was taken away, and it was just lost. It wasn't for me personally about 5 years ago that I first heard Dad speak on the tapes and sing. They didn't see the need to sort of talk or teach us the language. Oh, well, I think that it was taken from them anyway. But by the same token, we haven't lost that extended family, we haven't lost the togetherness, we haven't.
They were good days because the grandparents and that were there to sort of guide us and help us, and the elders that were around in those times too.
It was all mothers and fathers.
All mothers and fathers, you know what I mean? And if they told us to get home, that's where you went. We lived 8 mile up here up the road, and we went there walking, if you know.
And what about Uncle Bob?
And Uncle Bob over here, he lived in that house there, and he had a big stock whip. He'd come out cracking it if we were playing up and things like. But I never realised
how important those people really
were to us until I went down to the archives
and looked through them.
And looked through the letters and that were there, and they were horrific. In actual fact, everything that they'd done was a form of genocide to our people. They weren't allowed to speak language. Then they'd stop their rations if they spoke language. If they'd done anything that was
to the culture,
it was stopped. If they didn't go to church 4 times a day,
they wouldn't get any food.
They wouldn't get any food. The first things that they destroyed were these houses here. They wanted to put the people away onto Lake Tyers. That was the plan of the destruction. But most of our people wouldn't go. And there was a church up here at the end of the pines there. And they went and they blew the church up. That was another form of getting our people away.
So the destruction of the church was going to be the destruction of us too, because they were hoping that we would go away, but it didn't happen. We just came back double the amount of people.
I mean, everybody loved Staley here, the old people, you know. And yet down there you see him calling them blacks, you know. These blacks are like savages and all this and that. And,
talking about our grandparents.
And that's our grandparents. And this letter I found there, written by a farmer over this way.
Land grabbers as well.
Land grabbers, that's what we call them.
They're still all
he
land
said that the men were low-type human beings. That's what he's calling their fathers. They went to the war and fought for that, you know,
across the road.
For Australia, because they believed it was theirs. And we still do believe Australia's ours, you know what I mean?
Our fathers were in the war,
and they were in the war,
fighting for them while they're calling our fathers low types, planning to take the land from them. Yeah. And they did too, with the help of the government.
Yeah, they
but
did.
One day we're going to have it all back again. Yep.
Yeah.
You can just imagine Australia if it were one big national park. It would have been incredible, wouldn't it? It would have been magnificent. Just lately with the new campaign of the name restoration, you know, the $3 million been spent in this whole campaign, and it's very disappointing that, you know, this whole $3 million been spent throughout the Wimmera area on the Koorie National Park, on the new commercial on TV, but it really disappoints me that that kind of money floating around and we can't even employ, you know, Aboriginal people in the national park here. You know, we're ringing up government departments again, you know, look, yeah, you want to promote Aboriginal culture, that's fine, but listen, what about employing people? Instead of wasting money. You know, I feel like that I'm a bunny sitting here and, you know, coding for the tourist needs, but, you know, what about us? We need control of our destiny because if not, we're just going to be sitting in the next 10 years going through the motions. You know, we've got government departments telling us how to spend our money. It's a damn joke.
This corroboree tree was the landmark which showed the site for very large gatherings. The whole family gets together for a period of time and communicate and socialise. I'm sure around here individuals met their future husband or wife, and it was generally like Christmas is now. There's a land bill currently in Parliament to transfer that 1.7 hectares back to my organisation and therefore back to the people. It's very surprising that this land is coming up against so much opposition to be handed back. We want to build a cultural centre there. We feel it's not only very important to the Aboriginal people of Victoria but to the wider community. It'll be a place where they can come and learn. They'll be able to see artefacts being made, and it will be just very culturally based.
Brambuck is a living Aboriginal culture centre where the non-Aboriginal person can come to gather information and use the resources in Brambuck and to learn about the Aboriginal history throughout the southwest of Victoria. We wanted to have it more natural than anything, so it can blend in with the national park. And all of a sudden, over the 10-year period back in the 80s, the building just started growing. Now, if you're getting 1 million tourists a year, you know, paying $5 now just been introduced in camping fees. And why can't Brambuck have a part of that? Who needs handouts anymore? Now, the way I look at it, people want to come here and learn about Aboriginal culture, well, they start paying for it. You know, the evidence are there, the Dreamtime stories are here, you know, the rock arts are there, and they reckon we don't exist. You know, blackfella don't come from here no more. Where are they? Where they live? You know, how did the rock art get there? You know, did someone go and spray it with a spray can? Or did they go up there with a paint? Did European painted them or what? I'd really like to know. Bunzel's the curator of all things. He's the one who curated us Koorie people, the national park, the animals, all the resources for us Koorie people. And it really hurts me that we've got a cage around our spirit. And I feel that we're locking him in. Once these so-called non-Aboriginal persons get a better understanding and, you know, and get that an awareness, maybe the cages will come down one day. In the next generation, I hope, the future.
The cultural revival is survival. We're reaching back, taking what the ancestors have left for us, both physically and spiritually, bringing that forth for the young ones now. At some stage in their life, they have to reach back to their culture, for their identity, for an understanding of what they are. And if that information's there for them, well, then they can't go wrong.